Revelation 3355. B. From the 3rd and the 4th of December 1944. Ability to know and love God. Limitation of freedom. State of ignorance. Free will. Life force grace of God. The being is no longer able to recognize God due to its distance from God, into which it has fallen as a result of its past apostasy from God, and therefore it is also unable to love Him. And it would never lose this deficient state, it would always remain in the same lack of realization if God did not want to grant it a gift of grace in the last stage of its embodiment on earth. The life force, together with free will, which enables him to learn to recognize God when he uses it properly, thus to come into a brighter state. The beingness itself does not feel its lack as long as it is completely without knowledge. Yet it cannot feel bliss either, but evil urges prevail in it which drive it to constant rage against itself, that is, which make its dark spiritual state ever more impenetrable, and the being is thereby fettered, thus deprived of all freedom. But the being feels the restriction of freedom as agony, but it does not understand that it is only the consequence of lack of knowledge, because every connection remains hidden to it. And it is this ignorant state which first has to be remedied if the being is to cover the ascent to the height, to complete freedom and fullness of strength. But knowledge, the knowledge of God and His rule and activity, cannot be imparted to it against its will. But the being itself has to use the freedom of will so that its nature changes fundamentally, so that it comes out of darkness into the light and thereby regains its final freedom. The whole existence in the embodiment as a human being is to be regarded as a grace, for it is granted to the beingness even against its will. That is, the will of the beingness has been directed by God until this embodiment, the beingness is in a certain state of compulsion, in submission to God's will, which is expressed in natural law, until it has reached a degree of maturity which earns it freedom of will in its last embodiment, combined with the ability to recognize what is going on around it and in which connection everything created stands with its creator from eternity. This grace is granted to every human being, but whether he makes use of it depends on his will, because free will once turned away from it despite knowledge of the eternal deity, this will must now necessarily also become active in order to rejoin it, which can only happen after the recognition of the eternal deity, because this is the prerequisite that the beingness is also able to love God. And without love the union can never take place. Every human being on earth is offered the opportunity to recognize God and to learn to love Him, yet as long as his will still opposes God, the state of darkness, ignorance and lack of knowledge cannot leave him. He first has to break the shackles himself through his will, he has to try to break through the cover himself. Only then can he use his ability and penetrate knowledge and truth into recognition. And only then will he be able to love God with all his heart and strive for unity with Him, who will make him the most blissful being for all times. Amen.